Hi, this is the third video. We're going to do 7, 8 and 9 today.
That's right.
Feature those mistakes people make and how we're going to combat them and be aware of them on the golf course.
Yep. Hope you got something out of the last 6.
Yeah, we had the special bonus at the end of the second video. Go back and check that if you missed it. That's very good at looking at the pre-shot routine. Yeah. And right, let's get on with the 7th tip.
7th tip is not practicing or practicing the wrong things. It's one of those pieces of PR that I tend to use all the time, that I hit 70,000 golf balls through the year. It's one of the things that the newspapers and the TV and all of the journalists seem to catch up on, because it's a great figure. I did hit a lot of golf balls, there's no doubt about it. I did practice a tremendous amount, and there's no point in me saying otherwise. I couldn't have done it without all of that practice. But I changed my practice dramatically through the year as I became more and more efficient in terms of what I was doing. And that really, the ability to practice well is absolutely fundamental to your ability to get good at golf. If you go and stand at any range, what you tend to see is people just driver, 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 and nearly all doing a lovely big loop in their backswing and slicing them out there. And I remember on countless occasions walking along and seeing loop, 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 driver, 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 and thinking, you know, that's just grooving in a loop into your drive. You know, that's not really, there's no benefit to that. So practice always has to be about ultimately creating something that helps you to improve in the course. Right. When I finished the challenge, there was sort of a business acquaintance of mine came up to me afterwards, and he was kind of upset about the whole thing, because he said he couldn't believe that I'd done it. He said, I've been playing golf for 35 years, he said, and I've yet to break 80, let alone par. And I said to him, well, you know, how often do you practice it? And he said, never. So
it stacks up.
Well, it's good. You know, there's a clue there, really, as far as I'm concerned. So the practice thing is very, very important. You have to practice, but you have to practice very efficiently. What I used to do is I hit probably only about half the amount of balls in the latter half of the year, because because I was practicing much more efficiently. Now, in the Break Bar Blueprint, we have a lot of specific techniques in terms of good practice, but 2 specific things that we talk about in terms of hard practice and play practice, which are 2 versions which can very quickly get you the result off the back of that. But the gist of your practice is, when you go to the range or anywhere, you're focusing on things that you can take to the course. So one of the techniques that I used to use was playing the course on the range, and that meant that I would stand, you know, in my little bay, and I would visualize the first tee, and I would play my drive off the first tee, and I would then play the next shot based on how far left or right or short or long that I felt that shot had gone. So it, it could be anywhere between an 8-iron and a wedge, depending on where I was going. Or if I hit a bad drive that I felt was going out, I would then hit another drive until I got that right.
Are you doing the pre-shot routine?
I'm doing the whole thing.
So you're doing the club back in the bag?
Club back in the bag. I'm doing the whole pre-shot routine for that type of practice. I don't do the whole pre-shot routine for all of my practice, but for that practice I do. So then I go back, and then I imagine that, say it's a 9-iron, I'm thinking, and then I know there's a bit of wind there, and I've got to hit this absolutely perfectly, or slightly long, or slightly short, and I hit that. If I feel in my mind that it won't have got to the right place on the green, the absolute target that I was aiming at, then I'll do a little chip off the edge. So I'll literally chip off and try and think, well, I know there's the hole going to be there if I had hit that second shot. So what you're doing is you're getting in your mind very close to playing the course.
That's very clever.
Well, it really worked very well, and it meant that you play the whole way around the course like that, onto the second tee, par 5. So I'm thinking, well, okay, I'm going to do the drive, I'm going to do the 3-wood for safety. The exact process I sometimes would do that, because very often what you can do on that second par 3, and that's right, on that par 5 that there was a second hole, I used to experiment with a couple of different ways to play that, which sometimes involved rescue club, and then sort of mid-iron. And that's a very, very safe way to play that par 5, because the par 5 is a big bunker on the left-hand side. So if I did drive and 3-wood, I would very often end up in that bunker. So if you're thinking your way through the whole course on the range, then you're managing to then end up with this very clearly impacted plan in your head. So we come back to that planning section. You've planned your way around the course. You know what way you can think about it very easily in the range without distractions, in a way that you don't do when you're out in the course.
So don't kid yourself just because you're going down the down the driving range every weekend or in midweek. That is proper practice. That is just grooving the same old mistakes. Yeah.
I mean, there's one other little tip that I want to take off, though, just because it's come into my head. I played occasionally with a friend of mine who plays off +1, and he has played off +2. And when I played with him on the 4th hole at Blackwood, I used to hit the ball a long way, and I used to be able to just about drive that green. It's the shortest par 4 in the course. I actually was able to drive it a couple of times, but by driving it, you're putting yourself into the bunkers. Yeah. He would play a 3-wood off that. And he criticised me very strongly that day, because I was going, oh, I drove you. And he's going, well, look where I am. Yeah. And then he hit this perfect sort of 60-yard shot onto the green, and I think he got his birdie, and I ended up probably just getting a par or bogey or whatever, because he'd played it cleverly. So I then, whenever I'm practicing my way round the course on the range, always play a 3-wood at that hole. And I know that that gets me into that perfect zone where I have a thing called a go-to shot, which is in the break bar blueprint. I can't really go into that now, but I have a go-to shot range then, so it's very easy. I go 3-wood, 67-yard sand wedge, which is my 3/4 sand wedge.
So you're really playing in your comfort zone.
Playing enormously into my comfort zone. So playing very good practice on the range that visualizes and sort of replicates the course is a very successful way to make good use of your practice.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Now, as I said, we've lots and lots of different, as you know, we've lots of different practice techniques in the break par blueprint, but that's a very important one, and that is one that, again, you can go to the range tonight and try that. And then, you then end up thinking logically about every hole on the course.
Because we know so much of it is about mental preparation.
Yeah.
And so that is a perfect way of getting your mind right.
Well, what I used to do was, I used to be able to, on the range, I used to be able to consistently, and it sounds a daft thing to say, I used to be able to shoot consistently par on the range, but that involved me sometimes still taking penalties in occasional holes.
Yeah.
Because I knew that had gone off, and I thought, but you don't have the water, you don't have the bunkers, you don't have any of those other things there. But I would be able to then arrive on the course the next time thinking, yes, I played my way around this in my mind, and I took exactly those shots and took my medicine when I had to take it.
Yeah.
I did the safety thing, and I knew I was able to do it in terms of my ball striking by par, and I'm normally allowing myself 2 putts then, at each hole. So it's just a useful wee technique.
Yeah, the way you replicate what could happen out on the course. So the next one, what's the next mistake we make?
The next mistake we make, and again, as I say, with all of these, I've made all of these myself.
Yeah.
The next mistake that we make basically is this endless search for the secret of golf. And
but there are secrets, aren't there?
Well, there sort of are, because I mean, we've joked about this a lot, because we would sometimes talk about the secrets that we unearthed. Of them, and they're not that big a secret. I mean, the secret that I basically would maintain that I unearthed was this. Was belief, and that's a really tedious thing to say, and I'm acutely aware of that, but the belief was the thing that taught me how to, every time my belief would falter that I couldn't do it, when I listened to the Sam Torrances or Darren Clarks and so on of this world telling me that it wasn't possible, or any of the other voices on the internet saying that I was an idiot for trying all of these things, I would gradually then, my scoring would go down. Whenever I suddenly would do a good round and somebody would say to me, of course you can do it, and it was somebody credible, then suddenly my scores would get good again. So the belief was a really important part of it. If you're trying to get good at golf, if you don't believe you can be a single-figure golfer and you're playing off 14 or 15, you never will be. It simply won't happen.
Generally, there aren't any secrets, but that's one.
Yeah,
secret.
So
that's don't get bogged down in.
Don't get bogged down.
Because when I went over to Ireland and sat in your library, as it were, you had tons of books, DVDs, audio tapes, even everything that you were trying to unearth.
Absolutely,
looking for this
huge amount of stuff. Yeah, and I was looking for.
Because you wanted to shortcut this task of a year into half a year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we live in an immediate gratification obsessed society. We're always looking for the shortcut. It's kind of human nature.
Yeah.
But most marketing sells you that shortcut. I actually use it sometimes in my own marketing. I'm acutely aware of that. But the point is, I try not to, because actually, there is not one. There's no secret that if you just put your arm like that and you do one thing here, or you watch the way Hogan has his knee at. The world is obsessed with Hogan having discovered the secret. The way he has his knee here, or the way he cups his wrist, or any of these things. Yeah. People are obsessed that Hogan found the secret, but Hogan actually always said that the secret was lay in the dirt, digging the dirt, practice, in other words.
Yeah.
So don't get caught up too much by thinking that this one little thing that you might do with your hands, at the follow through, or the way you put your knee, or the way you wear your hat, or whatever it is going to be the secret. It's a lot of things.
But not so much secrets, but resources that did help you,
oh, for sure,
they're all in the program. So you're really shortcutting anyone's learning curve in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as you say, I read 60 books, you know, watched, I don't know, you know, I think it was something in the region of about 33 different videos in various formats. I used to buy all these old ones from eBay, you know, so lots of, and some of them were great, there's no doubt about it. They really were great. The Sevi one that has endlessly been, you know, I watched the Sevi's short game video, which I bought for £1, 20 times. And there's no doubt about it, you can get sorts of lots of little benefits from that, but I also watched a tremendous amount of rubbish from very big names. You know, that a lot of very good golfers will come out and put out, you know, to capitalise on their success, you know, an instructional video, and there's nonsense in them. I mean, I'm not trying to run them down, but the point is, you need to wade your way through that, and that's what we do in the blueprint. Is that we have this, you know, I cut out all the stuff that didn't work and all the things that did work. Now, I'm not always saying that what worked for me will work for you, but what we found in the blueprint is that sometimes that there are always 2 or 3 things that really resonate with some people, and that those are the things that suddenly give them that big lift through, because everybody's at a different stage. So don't get too caught up in the one secret for golf, because it doesn't exist. You know, as I say, within the context of saying that belief was mine.
And that you realise that during your task.
Yeah, very much so.
And that's
very
what
much
you relay to people.
That sometimes actually that there is not that immediate thing. I mean, there was one particular book that was billed as the last secret of golf. I'll not say what it is for you know, for libel or slander purposes. But it destroyed my game for 2 or 3 weeks. It just destroyed it. It's complete nonsense as far as I'm concerned, but I do know that other people have had some benefit from it. So the problem is it's wading through all of those issues, but if you get caught up with that, thinking that this one thing will give you an immediate result, rather than sticking at the fundamentals and the practice and all of those other things, or some of those other sort of slightly more interesting things that we've got in the blueprint as well.
That's why whatever your instruction is for golf, it doesn't matter, because your program works for that. It goes beyond the golf instruction.
Well, it does totally. I mean, I think one of the other
you're getting results. I mean,
we've had amazing results. I mean, we've had a lot of people that have come into the program that have been through your 4 new magic moves. And and it's not about a swing technique thing. You know, so the point is, it's about taking. You know, it's about taking those basic instructions, the fundamentals, and there are lots of different ways to swing a club. You only need to look at Ernie Els on one side and Jim Furyk on the other to see how many different ways you can swing a club very, very successfully. Both of them have won. Well, Ernie's won 3 majors. I'm not sure how many Furyk's won, but in major winners anyway, with totally different swings. But it's about getting. You know, it's about taking that basic information and turning it into a format that actually improves your golf. That's the point behind it.
That's good. So what's the last one today?
Well, the last one is the short game one. We've got a little bit of a bonus after this too, because there was a specific technique that I used a lot during the year, and I've got this video that comes up directly after this. You just need to keep watching. And I think most people are the same. Hated putting practice. I would be fair to say that we all know that good putting practice, good putting, is the way to, you know, really reduce your scores. And I'm not saying that isn't essential by any means. From my perspective, it hurt my back. It's boring. You know, I hated doing it. I did become a decent putter, but I became very, very good at the short game. And the thing about short game practice is that it's actually quite good fun as far as I'm concerned.
Pitching, so you're talking about the play side.
Yeah, it's that play side. Come back to the practice. If you play around, and I got a lot of that from watching the Sevi video. So most people don't practice their short game. They go to the range, to come back to that basic concept to begin with. They go to the range and they do all their driver stuff, but they don't practice their short game. I did a tremendous amount of play practice, which was just mucking about with my wedges. So, for example, trying to hit lob wedges, lob shots with a 7-iron, trying to, you know, pitch and run with my lob wedge. So all of these different techniques to try and just play around and become very good with wedges. Now the short game was the only part of my game that became very good, really. And the interesting thing is that when I shot the great round, the subpar round, my driving was a little bit off that day. Really? And what I was able to do was totally rescue so much of my game with great short game. And I watch a tremendous amount of golf at the moment, but I'm kind of always analysing it from a slightly different perspective, not just from the entertainment perspective, but to see how much I know we don't really talk about Tiger these days because his behaviour has been so appalling. But
and no emails on that.
Yes, exactly.
I've had too many.
But he and Mickelson are two very, very good examples of guys who rescue some appallingly wild shots. Yeah. Let's stick with Mickelson. Mickelson won the Masters by rescuing a lot of wild shots through great short game. And that amazing shot that he did with his 6-iron or whatever it was at the 13th.
Oh yeah, that was amazing.
You know, that to me was the example of a guy who has done a tremendous amount of play practice with his short game and all sorts of things. And then very briefly, to try and wrap this off, Phil Mickelson, those huge flop shots that he does, when he works with Dave Peltz, who is his short game coach, they work away on those absolute fundamentals. So we're back to the fundamental side. So he's working away on his fundamentals, getting really good pitches, good chips, all of those things.
Yeah.
And that's the basic bare bones of his practice. But whenever Peltz goes, we've done enough, go and take a break, Mickelson goes off, and his break is to practice those flop shots. That's the fun side of it.
Yeah.
And I argue that it's those breaks because he loves his short game so much and because he can treat it as play, messing about, as I would talk about it. That's why he's so good at that. That's why he's so comfortable in those bizarre situations to produce Ballesteros style and arguably even better, even though that's an appalling thing for me to say as a complete Ballesteros fanatic. He has managed to, through the play, create this short game that means that when he's got to go over a tree or shoot through a tree or over 2 bunkers and stop it within that period of time, he loves those shots. They don't always work for him, but if his long game is off, the short game is good enough to save him. As I say, Tiger does the same thing, and actually my short game rescued so much for me because the short game allowed me to get it much closer to the hole, so I didn't have to rely on my putting.
So where would you have practiced your short game? Did you have a short game area? Or
we didn't have a short game area. So a lot of people will say, well, there's no short game area in my club.
Yeah.
You have to become creative with that. So I practiced my short game. There's a drill that we use in the Break Bar Blueprint, which comes from Peter Dobereiner. It's a 50p drill, and I did this at home. And this again, you will get in trouble from your spouse if you do this, because what I used to do is it's a 50p on the carpet, and you have to pitch the 50p up onto the sofa. Very hard to do, but you become very precise in terms of trying to get a 50p up. Much harder than a.
What would that be in the States in?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. People have said we don't have 50p. What does 50p look like? It's a large coin. I got an email from a guy in South Africa saying, "What's a 50p?"
Yeah.
But anyway, so the point is, you rescue it. I did that stuff on the carpet at home. I did it in the garden. I did it late at night on the 6th green at Blackwood, and that was that night when I was doing it by moonlight one night when I nearly got shot by the poachers. I used to go down to, there's a little sort of public area down the road from me that I used to go very early in the morning. There's a council pitch, and I used to find all these areas. There is no short game area at Blackwood. And people sort of say, I don't have a short game area, therefore I can't do that. You have to become creative. But if you're just going out to play around with your wedges, it's actually good fun. Gets you out of the house, it's a bit of crack, as we say in Northern Ireland.
So that's 3 great
mistakes
and way that we
That's 3 great mistakes now
that we all make.
That we all make. The video that shoots after this is this John Daly technique that has been of huge benefit to a lot of the Blueprint guys. You may have seen this before, but I cannot emphasize how much this tip was of benefit to me. It's a left-handed pitching motion that I got from a John Daly video. So please watch this, and if you get a bit of time, go out into the garden or whatever and practice a little bit of this, because I guarantee you it'll improve your feel around the green enormously. So please give it a try. That's all that I ask.
Excellent. So that's 9 mistakes you had so far. We've got one more, which I consider to be the best one. That's going to come out in 4 days' time. That will be a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we've got a very special bonus and offer on that day.
Andy is a lot bigger than me, so he has twisted my arm, and we're throwing in 3 special bonuses in terms of the Blueprint. So hopefully that'll be of some benefit to you. But please check this last one, because this last one, whether you decide to buy the Blueprint or not, you've got to understand this last mistake that most people make, and I think it has the ability to. It's kind of a weird one, but it has the ability to sort of transform the way you think.
Now I know what it is, but and I'm excited for us to get that out there, because it is the difference. I mean, it's why your program has been so successful. So without giving too much away, but come Tuesday, check your email, watch the video. And it's the best one of all four of them, and you won't regret it. Okay. And take care.
Yes.
See you later.
Cheers.
Okay. One of the things I talked about within the video when we talk about the books is how inspirational I find certain aspects of John Daly's game. And that's nothing to do with his hard drinking, it's nothing to do with his country and western music, it's nothing to do with the huge distances that he can manage to hit his driver. It's to do with his short game. I think he gets a lot of flack sometimes for all those other things, and people don't fully grasp how amazing his short game is. So I found a little video of John Daly's around with John Daly. That's around his local course. I think it's possibly that course that he owns. And he did a little trick that I got a huge amount of benefit from, and it's effectively the use of the left hand for your pitching and chipping and putting, actually, in terms of helping to stabilise and control your short game. And you'll notice that Tiger does a huge amount of left-handed putting in terms of practice. So again, like so many of these things, I kind of watched all of those things and absorbed and tried so many different aspects of the practice from so many of those great guys, and then have just transported this into my own game, and a lot of them didn't work for me, but these did work. So this is a great tip from John Daly and from Tiger. So what he does is he just stands at the side of the green and pitches or chips with his left hand, and what it does is it stabilizes your swing tremendously, because you have to be really quite measured with it. You need to get your balance absolutely right, a little bit onto the left hand side, but just nice and gentle. So that's a little bit long. You're not that worried necessarily about how far these are going. What you're doing is trying to just get your feel right and get a nice clean stroke. Strike. So there we go. And then that one's a lot better. And you start to feel, you know, a good sense of control over the ball. You can't wildly swipe away at the ball. That's a good one. You have to just keep a lovely clean backswing, and that's what he talks about. It forces a very clean backswing on you. I think that one too. And then when you finally go to hit the ball with two hands, you feel so much. You can do it. You can do a lovely soft light grip, and you feel a huge amount more confidence with the club in your hand. So you can tend to hit it with a lot more confidence and feel and touch. And again, you know, if I just hit that straight off, there we are, just what, less than a foot from the hole. If I hadn't hit those four with my left hand to begin with, I sincerely doubt that I would have hit it as close as that. My practice regime, my short game practice regime, involves a huge amount of left-handed hitting, left-handed short game practice and left-handed putting, so that whenever I go out on the course, I have this feeling of softness in my hands, this feeling of control, because I've got the two hands that I can just play with it. And you'll see there how clearly it helps to benefit you when you use the two hands again. So left-handed practice for short game, pitching and putting. And even when you're out in the course and you're in a tricky lie, what I tend to find is I'll stand there and I'll do a few left-handed swipes so I feel how the grass is moving under the club, so that I can feel that sense of control. That sense of control that from the easy, smooth backswing and through. And then I'll ground the club and hit my ordinary stroke with two hands. So try that one. That made a huge difference to me. Give that one a go. Thank you.